human brain. The nervous system. The nervous system controls everything we do. This system is composed of brain, spinal cord, and all of the nerves present in our body. The brain is the control center of the body, and the spinal cord is the major channel for all the messages traveling in our body. The nerves carry the messages so that the brain can interpret them and we can take the necessary action. The nervous system is a complex, sophisticated system that regulates and coordinates body activities. It is divided into two major components as central nervous system consisting of the brain and the spinal cord, peripheral nervous system consisting of all other neural elements. The peripheral nervous system can be further divided into the voluntary nervous system and the autonomous nervous system. The central nervous system. The central nervous system is composed of the brain and the spinal cord. Brain is present in a bony structure known as skull. The space occupied by the brain is usually known as cranial cavity or cranium. The brain is surrounded by three protective coverings of connective tissue besides the bony cranium. Three membranes, collectively called the meninges, provide protection by separating the brain's soft tissue from the rigid wall of the skull. In addition to the protection of the layers, cerebrospinal fluid surrounds the brain and cushions it as well. It also provides some nourishment for the brain. The spinal cord is connected to the brain. From the brain, the spinal cord extends down to the middle of the back and passing through the spinal column, which is formed by small bones known as vertebrae. While present in spinal column, the spinal cord is surrounded by a clear fluid called cerebrospinal fluid that acts as a cushion as it may get hurt from the hard bony texture of vertebrae. The brain and spinal cord are referred to as the central nervous system, whilst the nerves connecting the spinal cord to the body are referred to as the peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system is composed of the cranial nerves and spinal nerves. There are 12 pairs of cranial nerves. The cranial nerves originate from the brain and go to the organs present in the head region. There are 31 pairs of spinal nerves. The spinal nerves come off the spinal cord and travel out to the organs which are below the head region. The nervous system works in conjunction with another system, that is the endocrine system. The nervous system includes the brain, spinal cord, sense organs and nerves, while the endocrine system operates through certain chemicals. The chemicals are hormones which are released by a set of endocrine glands present within the body. Examples of endocrine glands are salivary glands, sweat glands, sebaceous glands, the pancreas, etc. To understand the relation between the nervous system and the endocrine system, see the animation. Do you know why we feel hungry? We want food when our body needs energy. The command to feel hungry starts from the endocrine glands of digestive system. The glands start secreting certain hormones that cause hunger pangs. Hunger pangs are contractions in the stomach which make you feel hungry. The eyes see the food, brain registers this information, and a series of actions are taken by us to fulfill our desire to eat. Appropriate activities in the nervous system instruct the relevant muscles in the hands and the fingers to pick up the food and put it into the mouth. A hormone produced by our digestive system called cholecystokinin signals our brain when we have eaten sufficiently. The signals from the hunger center in the brain indicate a sense of fullness and we stop eating. After a series of digestive processes, food is absorbed into the bloodstream to fulfill the energy requirement. This example illustrates that the nervous system and the endocrine system work together as a team to control and coordinate all our activities. Our brain is a marvelous organ indeed. It is a complex and sophisticated organ which controls all our actions, voluntary as well as involuntary. To control our body actions, it receives information, analyzes them, and accordingly guides us to take necessary actions. The cells of the nervous system are quite fragile and need extensive protection, for which we have been provided enough coverings around the tissue. The brain is divided into three regions: the forebrain, the midbrain, and the hindbrain. The forebrain consists of the cerebrum, thalamus, and hypothalamus. The midbrain is the smallest region of the brain, but it plays a vital role in functioning of the brain. The midbrain controls many important functions such as the visual and auditory systems as well as eye movement. Third part, the hindbrain, comprises of pons, cerebellum and medulla. Forebrain. The forebrain consists primarily of the cerebrum and structures hidden beneath it. It is the thinking part of the brain and controls voluntary actions. It controls touch, smell, hearing, taste, sight, mental activities like thinking, learning, memory, emotions, etc. The cerebrum is divided into two hemispheres, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere, through a deep furrow. The two hemispheres look mostly symmetrical, yet it has been shown that each side functions slightly different than the other. The two hemispheres are formed of the wrinkled outer layer of grey matter known as cerebral cortex. Beneath the cerebral cortex, there is an inner core of white matter. Each hemisphere is divided into 4 sections: the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, the temporal lobe, and the occipital lobe. This is the cerebral cortex. It is the layer of cells present over the cerebrum. It is crumpled and folded, forming numerous convolutions and crevices. The cerebral cortex is divided into lobes, each having a specific function. This is frontal lobe. It is associated with the reasoning, planning, emotions, problem solving, and body movements. Next is parietal lobe. This lobe contains neurons that receive sensory information from the skin and other sense organs. This area is occipital lobe. The lobe is associated with visual processing, as its name suggests. This is temporal lobe. It is associated with perception and recognition of auditory stimuli, memory, and speech. Hindbrain consists of pons, cerebellum, and medulla oblongata. The pons is present above the medulla and also acts as a connecting tract. The cerebellum is an enlarged structure placed under the cerebrum. It is in fact shaped like a small brain, and it is primarily responsible for coordinating involuntary movement concerned with balance, equilibrium, and muscular coordination. Medulla oblongata, also called medulla. This is the lowest part of the brain. It is connected by the pons to the midbrain, and it continues with the spinal cord. The medulla has breathing center, cardiovascular center, and control on gastric secretion. The spinal cord is the most important structure between the body and the brain. It is a long, thin, tubular bundle of nervous tissue that extends from the brain and runs down the back. There are some set of spinal nerves that branch off the spinal cord and pass through a hole in each of the vertebrae called the foramen. These nerves carry information from the spinal cord to the rest of the body and from the body back up to the brain. In all, there are 31 pairs of spinal nerves which branch off from the spinal cord. The nervous system is divided into 2 major divisions: central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system is the division of the nervous system containing all the nerves that lie outside of the central nervous system. With the help of your peripheral nerves, you are able to carry out voluntary and involuntary actions. If you pick up a mug, clap your hands, or kick a ball, you are performing voluntary actions. In all these cases, you are conscious of what you are doing. In contrast, your heart beats and your digestive system works without your conscious control. Such involuntary actions are regulated by your autonomic nervous system. The autonomic part of your peripheral nervous system ensures that all your internal organs and glands function smoothly. Your autonomic nervous system controls all the involuntary actions in the human body and is divided into two parts, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Sympathetic nervous system. This part of the autonomous nervous system that normally functions to produce adjustments in the activity of organs as per the need. For example, during running, there is an increased demand for oxygen by the body. This is fulfilled by an increased breathing rate and increased heart rate. The sympathetic nervous system works to increase the breathing rate and the heart rate in this case. In short, stimulation of the sympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system prepares the body for emergencies. Parasympathetic nervous system. This part of the autonomous nervous system slows down the activity of an organ and thus has a calming effect. This is facilitated by the parasympathetic nervous system. It can be said that the parasympathetic nervous system helps in conservation of energy by bringing the organs' actions to normal after they have been altered by sympathetic stimulation. Response to stimulus in plants. The survival of all living organisms depends on sensing and responding to the changes taking place in the surroundings. To interact with the environment, living organisms have a network of specialized cells, neurons, whereas plants have hormones. Plants cannot move themselves to areas of preferable conditions, but they have a variety of adaptations that help them to adjust with the changes happening around them. Development of plants as well as their interactions with the environment are regulated by plant hormones. Responses in plants. Plants have the ability to detect a stimulus and respond to it by growing or bending either in its direction or away from it. These responses are called tropisms. Tropism is a growth response between a plant and an external stimulus. The stimulus can be weather, touch, time, gravity or light. Actually, any response during tropisms is controlled by a plant hormone called auxin. Auxin is a phytohormone responsible for cell division. It is also responsible for controlling the direction of growth of a plant in response to certain stimuli. It is present at the root tips and stem tips in response to different stimuli, including light and gravity. It is produced by cells at the tips of roots and shoots of plants. At the tip of a shoot, there is an area in which cells are produced by dividing so that the shoot grows. old cells do not divide, but the stem grows in length due to the dividing cells at the tip. Types of tropism. Tropisms are directional movement responses that occur in response to a directional stimulus. A tropism can be either positive or negative. If a tropism is in the direction of the stimulus, it is positive. If the tropism is away from the stimulus, it is negative. The following types of tropism are well known: phototropism, geotropism, hydrotropism, thigmotropism, and chemotropism. Phototropism. Phototropism is the growth of plant in response to light. The shoot of a plant is positively phototropic. When a young growing plant is exposed to the light coming from one direction only, the newly grown stem will bend towards the direction of the source of light. It happens because of the release of plant hormone auxin. If the source of light is on the right side of a plant's shoot, auxin will accumulate on the opposite side. Due to the accumulation of auxin, that side will grow much faster and will make shoot bend towards the light. Reverse happens when the source of light is on the other side. This is phototropism. Geotropism. The growth of plant in response to gravity is called geotropism. Roots show positive geotropism and negative phototropism because they grow towards gravity and away from sunlight. Opposite to shoot, auxins prevent the cells at the bottom tip of the root from growing, making the cells at the middle of the root grow faster. When the cells of the middle of the root grow faster, they push the root deeper into the soil and the root gets longer. The root grows in the direction of the gravitational pull. This is geotropism, and it is also known as gravitropism. Hydrotropism. Hydrotropism is about the response of plant during its growth towards water. Roots show positive hydrotropism and grow in the direction of water. Once a root cap has sensed water, it bends and then the root grows towards it. Tendency of roots to bend towards the water causes problems in many cities. When roots of plants or trees grow towards the drain pipes, they enter the cracks present in the pipes and plug up the drains. This will cause clogging and the flow of fluid in the pipe will get restricted. Thigmotropism. Thigmotropism is the directional response of plants to touch or physical contact with a solid object. This phenomenon is depicted by the climbing tendrils of some plants such as sweet pea, cucumber, etc. Tendrils are specialized thread-like structures that can grasp objects with which they come in contact. As soon as a tendril reaches this support, it releases a class of phytohormones called auxin. Accumulation of auxin at certain growing places of plant helps the tendrils to grow towards the supporting object. Chemotropism. Movement or growth in plants in response to chemical stimuli is known as chemotropism. The roots of the plants show a positive chemotropism by growing towards the useful minerals and negative chemotropism by growing away from the harmful chemicals. The growth of pollen tube towards the ovule in the ovary is an example of positive chemotropism. Some chemicals secreted by ovary help in directing the growth of pollen tube through the style. This is chemotropism. Nastic movements. Nastic movements are non-directional responses to stimuli. Such movements are different from tropisms because the direction of movement is not dependent on the direction of the stimulus. The closing of the carnivorous plant Venus flytrap leaf on coming in contact with the prey is an example of nastic movement. The leaf does not close unless two of its hairs are touched. More examples of nastic movements in plants. This is Mimosa pudica plant. It is also known as touch me not. When the leaves of this plant are touched or disturbed, they get folded, exhibiting nastic movement. This type of movement that results due to some mechanical stimulation is known as thigmonasty. Another example of such a response is the opening and closing of flowers. If you've ever taken a late night stroll through a garden, you may have noticed that certain flowers, much like humans, tend to retire after the sun goes down. Movement of plants in response to the onset of darkness is known as nyctinasty. Thigmomorphogenesis. In nature, plants are challenged by strong winds, monsoon rains, and regular attack of herbivores. In such conditions, plants respond to these mechanical stimuli by changing their growth pattern. Swaying of plants by winds is one of the most common responses of plants to winds. Continuous swaying of the plants in the wind's direction changes their direction of growth. Plant hormones or phytohormones. Another factor in plant growth is the influence of plant hormones. Hormones are chemicals produced by plants that regulate their growth and development. Different hormones affect different plant processes. They are biochemical substances produced in one part of a plant and transported to a different part where they exert a particular effect. One type of plant hormone is called auxins. The effect of auxin we have already seen. This hormone increases the length of most plant cells and thereby contributes to the growth and elongation of the plant. Auxins produced in the terminal buds suppress the growth of side buds and stimulate root growth. Cytokinins. Cytokinins are found in sites of active cell division in plants. For example, in root tips, seeds, fruits and leaves. The first cytokinin discovered was named kinetin. Cytokinins show several responses in plants depending on the location and concentration. They can prevent leaves from aging and promote fruit and embryo development. Lateral bud development, which is retarded by auxin, is promoted by cytokinins. Ethylene. Ethylene is the only gaseous plant hormone. It is responsible for the ripening of fruit. Ethylene is used to treat crops so that the whole crop ripes at the same time. Sprayed on a field, it will cause all fruits to ripen at the same time so that they can be harvested. Abscisic acid. Another plant hormone is abscisic acid, which is produced in mature leaves and inhibits growth in developing leaves and germinating seeds. Abscisic acid is considered to be stress hormone. It inhibits the effects of other hormones to reduce the growth during the times of plant stress. Gibberellins. Gibberellins promote stem elongation. They are not produced in stem tip. Gibberellic acid was the first of this class of hormone to be discovered. The gibberellins are especially abundant in seeds and young shoots, where they control stem elongation by stimulating both cell division and elongation.